Hey YouTube, not so Slim Jim, coming to you with another video because I made a live stream last night covering all the new and exciting and fangly dangly high-speed new pro-gun laws we have here in the state of Texas. But the video I made was almost an hour long, so I wanted to put out another video that's going to be hopefully a whole lot shorter that goes through all the new pro-gun laws we have here in Texas that are already in effect. So I am going to go through these new bills, laws at this point, because they all took effect September 1st of this year, and let everyone know about everything that's going on without necessarily having to watch an hour-long video. Now, we already know about constitutional carry, we already know about the Texas Suppressor Freedom Bill, and we already know about the separation between federal gun laws and state gun laws. If you need to know more about those subjects, you can look back on my previous videos. I have covered all of them in pretty good detail. So if you want to know about those, I have entire videos just in those subjects. Now, the first one wasn't a individual bill, but it was one that was built into House Bill 1927. That was the constitutional carry bill. Now, this made amendments to both 4603 and 551, which is the Open Meetings Act. And this made amendments throughout 4 different parts of the different sections that now makes it where open meetings, as long as they don't take place on school property or federal property, basically restricted areas, city councils or any open meetings for school boards or so on can no longer restrict the carry of weapons with an LTC holder. So before city council meetings or school board meetings, water board meetings, they could elect to put up 30-06 or 30-07 signs. They no longer have the ability to do that. So now you can conceal or open carry into any of those meetings. Now, they did not make any provisions to extend to those people who do not have a license to carry. So for constitutional carry, you cannot carry into those meetings. In fact, it actually has it set out to be that if you do without a license, it is a 3rd-degree state felony. So if you do not have a license to carry, unfortunately, you cannot carry a firearm into those meetings. It is a state felony. Do not do so at this point. I'm sure that's a mistake they realize that they will try to amend for next session. Now we're going to go into HB 1500. Don't mind me looking down. I got a lot of notes. Prevents the government entities from gaining sales of transportation of firearms and ammo during a declared disaster or emergency. Okay. This happened during hurricanes, during COVID, where the more liberal cities try to go, oh, well, this is a disaster, so we're going to close down firearm stores for safety reasons, or you can't carry firearms, you can't transport firearms, you can't move munitions. And because some cities tried that during states of emergency or disaster declarations, they made a provision to the law saying very specifically that any municipality, any county, any city can no longer do that. So that is in law. They can't do that. Next, we have HB 1407 allows license holders to carry openly in a holster anywhere in their vehicle. So some people have seen those high-speed holsters that fit in, basically have like a cup holder deal you can put down there, or if you want to use a magnetic style holster, or basically as long as it's in something that resembles a holster, you can have it openly anywhere inside your vehicle. I'd prefer you keep it away from where your kids could get it, but other than that, now you can do it without having it be on your body or somewhere about your body, which was the forbidden law before this. Next, we have HB 1387 allows certain foster homes to store their firearms and ammo together in a locked container rather than separately. So before September 1st, if you were a foster parent and you had a fire in your home, you had to have your firearm and your ammunition locked in separate containers. Now you can keep your firearms in the same container, and also if it's in your vehicle, you can have your firearm armed in a locked container, glove box, or something of that nature in your vehicle when you're traveling, because it's an extension of your house. This is a big one because, let's just face it, foster parents have the right to protect themselves, their children, and their foster kids just like anyone else should. All right. Now we have HB 1069. Allows first responders to carry a firearm while on duty. This includes firefighters, EMT, or any public safety employee that responds rapidly. So basically any type of response person that responds to a scene of an emergency will be included this, both full-time, part-time, and volunteer employees. And if here's a big one. Now, this was allowed to happen before, but a lot of departments said, we're not going to allow you to do this. They made a big change to this, where there is now a firearm safety class that's very similar ones that police take, that if they complete this firearm safety course, the city or government cannot restrict them from carrying their weapon. So if they complete this course, whatever department they work for can no longer go, we don't want you to carry it. They cannot deny them from carrying the weapon, and also must provide them storage from both at the department they work at and in their vehicle. So if for some reason they're going, like I live near Fort Hood, they're going on Fort Hood and they can't carry on Fort Hood, they can leave it at the station. Or if they're going into a certain medical facility where it's illegal for them to carry or something of that nature, they can leave it in the vehicle so they don't have to worry about legal ramifications. Next is HB 2112, removes the requirement for an open carried firearm to be carried on a belt or shoulder holster, and only has to be in a holster. Basically, it just goes through certain sections of the law where it says must be carried in a belt and shoulder holster, and just crosses out belt and shoulder and leaves holster. So now if you want to carry in a drop leg holster, you want to carry in, well, basically anything that resembles a holster. So if you're one of those guys who likes carrying an AR pistol or AK Draco pistol or something of that nature, if you advise some kind of pistol that hangs off your belt or something of that nature, it is in fact a pistol, or it is in fact a holstered, and it's legal in the state of Texas now. Next, we have HB 4346, restricts landowners from around easements from restricting the transportation of firearms and alcohol along the easement as long as it is used lawfully. So if you have, like you have a regular government easement, but if you have an easement that goes through a private piece of property, connecting that piece of property to another property, before the landowner could make certain restrictions saying, I don't want firearms on the property, I don't want this, I don't want that. Now, if you are on that easement legally, they cannot restrict firearms or alcohol. Very simple one. This does not include easements for natural gas companies or electrical companies unless you work for them, which even then usually they don't allow it. But for any other types of easements, it allows this to be legally done now. Next, we have HB 29, allows state-owned public buildings to provide firearm storage lockers to employees and to members of the public. This is good. If you work in an area where, let's say, a lot of people carry, but cry crime, they don't want their vehicles to be broken into, firearms be stolen, they can now provide storage lockers that you can put your firearm in when you get to work if you can't carry it at work, because government can still do that. Or if you're going into, let's say, a police station, you're carrying, you can carry into the public area, but you can't carry to the restricted area, you can put your firearm into a secured locker, do what you need to do, come back out, retrieve your firearm, carry on. So this is creating the legal ability for people to be able to store their weapons when going in and out of certain areas or certain buildings without having to worry about running through the car. Cool. I actually like that. All right, HB 1920. This is a classification one. Classified secure areas of airports to include controlled areas of a terminal building to be that of controlled by inspection of people and property. This also includes aircraft parking areas, areas with controlled access, and control points that's controlled underneath federal law. So there have been certain airports that said, hey, basically the entire airport is controlled. You can't have a firearm in the pickup area, in the baggage claim area, basically no guns on our entire property. Well, of course, Texas stepped in and said you can't do that, and it made it very clear that only until you get to the point where you get screened for security and passed, and basically the runway area or areas where they park planes that have gates and some type of controlled entry are the only secured areas where you can have firearms. Now, if you are at a small airport that is not controlled by the federal government, it is a local or state one, you can actually have firearms all the way up to the plane parking area or the planes themselves. As far as I know, I'm not too familiar with airplane laws when it comes to firearms. That one I'll have to look into. But you can have them in baggage claim areas, parking lots, pickup locations, or any public area other than secured areas in a airport facility. So there we go. It's clarified. Airports can stop being weirdos now. All right, we have HB 2675 creates an expedited LTC applications for people at risk. Any person at risk with a protection order from an emergency protection order or family protection order can show can apply. So if you are a male, female, doesn't matter, and you have a protection order for either emergency protection order from the court or family protection order, you can submit that with your LTC application to get an expedited LTC. Usually when I got mine, it only took like a month, so maybe you could get it within a couple weeks. It really depends upon volume load, but they put you to the head of the line. Now most people are thinking, okay, well, that doesn't really matter anymore because we have, constitutional carry. So if they can get an LTC, obviously they can carry without it. Well, that bill is very important because that goes into this next bill. They're kind of sister bills. You have HB 918. Any person who is 18 years of age or older with an emergency protective order from the courts may apply for an LTC if they meet all the requirements except for age. They can, and so that's great. So now if you're 18 or older, and you have a family emergency or a family protective order, emergency protective order against someone, no matter the situation, as long as you can prove that you're at a high enough risk where you need a protective order, you could actually get an LTC at the age of 18, 19, or 20. And the greatest part is not just as long as that protective order exists. Once you get it, you are able to keep that protective order until the age of 21, where you simply have to renew to get a regular license to carry, and then you can just have your regular LTC from that point and don't have to worry about having the little protective order thing on your license to carry. So that's a great one. So people, other than people who are in the military, because if you're in the military, at 18, you can get an LTC in the state of Texas. And it doesn't matter what branch or what status, active duty, reserve, National Guard, any branch. If you're in the military and you're actively enlisted, you can get LTC in the state of Texas. So SB 741 is the next one. Allows school marshals to carry concealed of a firearm on their person or keep in a locked container. Before, school marshals, if schools elected to have them, can only keep the firearms in a locked container. Now they have the ability to conceal carry on their persons while on school property. This gives them more flexibility, but they can still keep it in a container if they feel that's the best way to do so. Once again, flexibility for the best of what they need to do for their school marshal. Okay, now we're going SB 20. Now this is the problem, because I know we had problems this before. A lot of hotels try saying that you can't keep firearms in a hotel, but state codes said that if someone's renting a room, then that is their property for whatever amount of time they rented it for, and they have the right to keep a firearm. But hotels decided they want to try to restrict firearms anyway, so we created a new law saying screw you to hotels. SB 20, hotels cannot restrict the storage of firearms or ammunition in a vehicle or hotel property or in a hotel room. It also may not restrict the conceal or open carry with an LTC directly to or from the room. They also may not restrict open carry open carry in common areas. Now, this one also has a caveat of with or without an LTC. So basically, if you get a hotel room, and this only includes any hotel with 10 or more rooms, so not little B&Bs. So any decent sized hotel, if you get a room, you can legally open or conceal carry to and from your room from your vehicle, to or from your room when you're leaving a property, to or from your vehicle if you're leaving a property. Basically, as long as you're going to and from and not stopping in the common areas or going to the pool, which don't open carry when you're in a pool. The chlorine's horrible for your gun. And you can do that, and they can only restrict the open carry in common areas. So if you want to go down and get breakfast in the morning, get some of that really bad apple juice and some burnt oatmeal, you can still conceal carry, and the only thing they can do is restrict the open carry in common areas at hotels in the state of Texas. That's also a big one for people who travel. Next, we have SB 19, prohibits government entities from contracting with businesses that discriminate against firearm industries. So I know a lot of you have heard about credit card companies saying they're no longer going to be processing credit cards for companies, like, oh, we're not going to do it if you're selling firearms, selling ammunitions, things of that nature. Well, now the state of Texas said, okay, if you're going to be a company that does anything with the firearm industry, that you won't process, firearm transactions or ammunition transactions, or you're a bank or anything where you discriminate against a firearm industry, the state of Texas won't do business with you. and that means we'll shave out millions of dollars in contracts and fees and all kinds of stuff that these companies normally would get from the state. We're saying, screw you. You don't like guns? We won't work with you. Very simple one. Okay, SB 162 makes it a state felony if you falsify a 4473. So this, because we under HB 2622, which is the one that separates federal crimes from state crimes, because technically a state police officer or a city police officer or county couldn't report a federal crime against someone because of that bill, we had to make it illegal in the state of Texas for someone to falsify the background check paperwork for when you buy a new firearm. And all this does is make it a felony if you do that, which is the same thing on a federal level. But this is actually better because if you get convicted of doing it on a state level, you can't get double jeopardy. They can't charge you on a state level and a federal level. And third-degree felony state level is actually the lowest felony you can get. But if you get charged with this, a lot of times you can get deferred adjudication. You can get away with no jail time. And if you get through your probation without screwing up, a lot of times they'll actually, through deferred adjudication, the felony will drop off your record and you'll be able to regain your ability to own firearms, assuming that it wasn't you being a felon in the first place the reason why you couldn't get the gun. So believe it or not, this is actually a lot better than the federal law. So that's a good one. Next, we have SB 550. Basically does the same thing as SB 2112. It says that it removes the belt and shoulder holster, but it removes it in different sections of penal code throughout, like I said, Texas Penal Code. So that way it's covered through the entire thing. No belted shoulder holster, just regular holster. Don't got to worry about it. All completely covered. Now we're on to the last one, which is SB 313, and this is the one I like. This is the one I saved for last. Removes the state sales tax for firearm safety equipment. So gun locks, safes, as like this big guy back here, or any safety equipment, trigger locks, or training manuals, or any item designed to ensure the safe handling or storage of firearms is now tax-free. So let's say you want to go out and you want to get that big boy safe. This one's $600-700, but you want to go buy that $2,000 safe. Well, you're saving yourself a couple $100 in tax now. Or if you want to go buy some earmuffs, a trigger lock, anything that has to do with storage or safety of a firearm is now tax-free in the state of Texas. Now, there are a couple other laws that just have to do with like mass shooter drills, things of that nature, but they're not really pro-gun bills. But this is the extent of it, and as usual, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them down in the comment section. I'll answer them as quick as I can.